Believe it or not, I'm a college student. Poor admission office decisions aside, I've had the idea to buy a tablet for reading and note-taking for quite some time now. But if you've ever watched this channel before, you know I can't go out and do something normal, like buying a $2,600 iPad Pro. No, instead I turned to Microsoft's educational lineup of tablets and bought myself a used Surface Go 2. The best part? It was $40. So for $40, can you get a tablet that you might actually want to use and could provide a good alternative to the more expensive offerings from Apple and Samsung, or will it be a flaming pile of garbage? And if you make it to the end, you might even find out if it can game. Meet the Surface Go 2. The model I have here is a mid-spec model with a Pentium 4425Y, a 2-core hyper-threaded chip that clocks up to 1.7 GHz with no turbo boost and 2 MB of cache. Now while those specs may seem paltry, it does all of this in a 6-watt TDP, meaning it's very power efficient. Supporting the CPU, we have 128 GB of storage and 8 GB of RAM. There are also models with 4 GB of RAM, but I try to steer clear of those. The year's 2025, and Google Chrome or Firefox can easily eat through that. There are also models with 64 GB of storage and 256 GB. If you go for the 128 or 256 GB models, you'll be fine. However, the 64 GB versions don't use real SSDs. They use eMMC flash, which, while better than a hard drive, is prone to failure, and a lot of the models I saw with on eBay had failed eMMC. So I would try and splurge and get the higher spec models. It's also worth noting that if you want to spend some extra money, there is a model with a Core M3 8100, which, while being the thing that ruined a 12-inch MacBook, makes for a pretty decent tablet experience. If you only look at the internals of this tablet, you may think that we effectively have a PC from 2008, but it's what's on the outside that makes up for it. The screen on this tablet is quite frankly very good. It's 10.5 inches IPS and has a resolution of 1920 by 1280, giving it a 3:2 aspect ratio. It gets plenty bright and is very nice to look at, and if they made this as a desktop monitor, I'd probably buy it. It is also, of course, a touchscreen supporting multi-touch and all those fancy features. It also supports normal Microsoft accessories like the Surface Dial. Complementing the screen, we have what is a mostly plastic build, however that trademark Surface hinge is fully metal and feels super nice to use and is very stable. It also rotates nearly 180 degrees so you can lay the tablet nearly flat, which makes for a very nice writing experience. For I/O, we have a single USB-C port, a headphone jack, and a Surface connector. You also have front and rear facing cameras, where the front cameras support Windows Hello. Now I'm using Linux on this tablet, and getting the cameras to work in Linux is rather difficult, and I'm going to be honest, I couldn't get it to work, so you'll have to take my word for it that the cameras probably are fine. And if you'd like to see me struggle with other devices running Linux, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Wait a minute. Did I just say Linux? Yeah, so given the fairly lackluster specs of this machine, when I got it running Windows 11, it was so slow I couldn't even complete the setup. So instead, I have resorted to running Pop! OS with the Surface kernel. If you're going to put Linux onto your Microsoft Surface, I cannot recommend the Surface kernel enough. It got rid of all the issues I was having and made the thing very usable. So now that we know about both the hardware and software of this tablet, what's it like to actually use? Well, given that I have the type cover for it, that means we can use it as both a tablet and a laptop, so I'm going to review what it's like to use as both. Starting with tablet mode, it's a pretty solid experience, especially running Linux and more specifically GNOME. As long as you're not doing a bunch of really heavy multitasking, normal things like content consumption work super well on this tablet. Reading and especially video watching are strong suits of this device. Speaking of video watching, the speakers are stereo and front-facing and are better than my main laptop speakers, which makes me kind of mad. However, my main use case for this tablet is actually note-taking, and that gets a bit more dicey. You see, most of the tablet market is made up of iPads, so most note-taking apps are designed for iPads. That meant I had kind of a hard time finding a note-taking app that would work well on a Linux tablet. I tried both of the Obsidian handwritten notes extensions and they kind of worked, but palm rejection was bad and input registration was especially bad, so I steered clear of those. Instead, I settled on Journal, External, I don't care, whatever. And it works really well. Palm rejection, while not perfect, not nearly what an iPad can do, was very good, and input registration was nearly perfect. So if you want to use one of these as a note-taking device on Linux, I cannot recommend that app enough. Microsoft has always marketed Surfaces as kind of this cross between a laptop and a tablet, so now that we know what it's like to use as a tablet, how's it like to use as a laptop? Overall, the experience is kind of like a modern netbook. I mean, the performance here is considerably better, but everything is really small. I mean, that's kind of a given when you only have a 10.5-inch tablet, but it means that everything on it is cramped as a laptop. Now, I do like the type cover as a whole. The keyboard feels very nice to use and the trackpad is fine. It's plastic, not glass, but it gets the job done. But as somebody with somewhat large hands, I don't get along super well with the keyboard. It feels really cramped. However, if you have more Linus-sized hands, I don't think it'd be an issue for you. Also, using it as a laptop, the performance starts to rear its head a little bit more. I generally find myself using a laptop a bit more intensively than the way I would use a tablet, so performance starts to get a bit sluggish. However, if you're patient and use it more like a Chromebook, I don't imagine it will be an issue for you, or you can get the higher spec CPU and then it'd be perfectly fine. And as a quick side note, if you want to use Windows on this tablet, either as a tablet or a laptop, please, for the love of God, get the higher spec CPU and at least 8 gigs of RAM, otherwise you're not going to be having a good time. For both use cases, battery life was really good here. I mean, that's kind of a given when you only have a 6-watt CPU. Depending on what I was doing, I saw anywhere from 6 to 12 hours of battery life, and if you're doing lighter tasks on it, I easily could get 2 to 4 days out of it. But what's the point of having an x86-based computer if we're not going to try and at least play a game on it? For my selection of games today, I really consider that this thing is effectively a mid-range computer from 2008, so we're playing source games. Starting with the original Portal at the screen's native resolution and max settings, I didn't expect much, given that we have a CPU clocked in at 1.7 GHz, but the experience was really good. It ran above 60 FPS nearly all of the time, and I would happily play through the original Portal this way. Given that Portal was such a success, I figured we'd try another game of a similar vintage, CS Source. However, I could not get the game to run. For whatever reason, ran on the same engine, I don't know why, refused to open on this tablet. It's made extra funny by the fact our CPU is quite literally the bare minimum spec required to run the game according to Steam. So is a Surface Go 2 a reasonable alternative to other tablets on the market? Yes. If you want to use it as a tablet and you spec it right, I think it's a solid experience that rivals other budget tablets. If you want to use it as a laptop, it starts to fall apart there. You can get away with it, but I wouldn't want it to be my main machine. And if you want to use Linux on it, make sure you use the Surface kernel. If you're running Windows, get as high of a spec as possible. It will help out greatly. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing, as it will help more people find the channel, and monthly random tech videos are what I do here. I've also started a Ko-Fi if you want to do a one-time donation to the channel and help me continue to buy useless crap. Now, I'm JaxonTheNerd, and I will see you all for the next one.